everyone. It is Game Source Podcast 132. My name is Gerald, better known as Yes, Elvis Lives. We're from yourgamesource.com. That's GameSource on Facebook, at GameSource on Twitter. And I've got a lot of stuff I personally want to talk about, what the site is doing, but I'm going to save that for the end of the show because we have a big announcement from our guest today. Actually, he's become one of our regulars. He does so much stuff for us. We just, he's one of our own. We will cradle him in our bosom here at Game Source.
Please don't do that. Please don't do that. If you want me to come back, do not put me anywhere near your bosom.
Fair enough. It's Rob McCallum, the director of Nintendo Quest, Missing Mom, the Kitty documentary, the previously announced He-Man documentary, and I will just give the floor to you and have you take it away, sir.
Sure. It's a pretty exciting day. Some of you on social media may have seen the announcement, I think maybe 4 or 5 hours ago. I'm teaming up with Doug and Nicole, who are local game store owners here, Retro City Games, Henderson, Nevada. And we are going to make a film on box art in the world of gaming. And quite simply, we've titled it Box Art, a gaming documentary, because it seems like an injustice that nobody has done a documentary yet or even kind of chronicled video game box art. With baseball cards, with comic books, you know where you can go to find the value and who's responsible for that stuff. But in the realm of video games, you don't have that luxury. So what's the deal? And this all really got started by their shop, and they were able to take in some early design and box artwork for a company that used to be based in Vegas. And they don't know what to do with it because they don't know the story behind it. They don't know the actual artists. And I thought, wow, this would be a really great documentary. So why not let's follow their journey as they try to find the concrete example in front of them. But let's find out who else is responsible for all those iconic images that are out there that we know and love, that some of us actually probably associate more than the actual games that they represent. So there's just so much to tell. There's so much to delve into. And of course, the documentary, we want to cover all areas of gaming, and on the console side and on the PC side, and even looking at stuff that's current today. So this won't be just a retro doc, so to speak. It'll look at contemporary styles and processes for box art nowadays and what mobile does for box art and what the differences are. So it's pretty exciting, and our participant list is growing and just evolving every moment.
Well, that's definitely when it was announced today, and I kind of got a feel of it earlier today when I stopped by Retro City Games. And if you are in the Las Vegas area, I just want to make sure everybody knows to stop by Retro City Games in Henderson, Nevada, suburb of Las Vegas. They are great people there, and they have a great store. And if you are a fan of anything retro gaming, even from the last console era on, they have it for you. And if they don't, they will get it for you. Plus, they have such a unique store and a unique base of customers there. They have their game nights every month. They're just a great place to go. They're really good people, and I'm just so happy for all of you as far as this project is concerned. But I know you touched on box art just a little bit in Nintendo Quest, and if you haven't seen that already, it's on Vimeo. If you want to catch it on Vimeo. Did you want to talk a little bit more maybe about how else they can also get Nintendo Quest, or is just Vimeo straight up right now?
Well, we've made it, it's really simple. Go to nintendoquest.com, and there's the links that'll take you to not only the Vimeo on demand page, but there's links on nintendoquest.com for the Power Tour series that debuted yesterday, which shows Jay and I going across the country, basically rolling out the film in a bunch of cities that we had both filmed in and a bunch of new communities that we discovered. So, expect a lot of sarcasm because, of course, it's Jay and I, game hunting and just meeting new members of the community and checking out new shops. So it's a lot of fun. Episode 1, LA, is out there, and every month we'll drop another episode, and there's going to be 8 in total by the looks of it.
I actually saw the first episode yesterday, and let's see, Carrie Swedecki,
Yep.
She gets the best. Spoilers. She and Jay might have a little something to do as far as maybe some kind of competition, maybe.
Well, let me just throw it out there that I like putting Jay in awkward situations that make him feel uncomfortable, hence the whole premise behind Nintendo Quest. And when I knew we were going to be in LA and I knew Carrie was going to come and check out the screening, I thought, well, I wonder what I could cook up between Jay and a world record marathon just dancer who was getting ready to do over 130 hours straight without kind of stopping. So, well, you'll have to watch the episode to see what kind of happens between those two and how Jay reacts to literally being dropped off in the middle of nowhere, and all of a sudden she appears.
Especially in LA.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So,
Being from SoCal for the first 25 years of life, I understand that could be quite harsh.
Before we jump on off, Gerald, what did you think when you heard that I announced that box art documentary? Because I don't think many people knew, and we were just gaining enough momentum that I was starting to get a bunch of questions in, so I thought I'd better just kind of throw it out there. What was your gut reaction to that?
Well, my gut reaction to it was I thought you were going to lean towards something towards the Genesis. You had hinted, you and Jay had hinted, I guess, from time to time when asked about leaning possibly into that genre, into that realm and time frame for video games. But for box art, I know this is something, like I said, you had touched on briefly in your awesome film, Nintendo Quest. So definitely this is something that, like you said, no one else has approached. It's a very novel concept, and it's something that really, as I know you can do, will actually just come off very, very well to an audience.
I will say that this is not the follow-up to Nintendo Quest that Jay and I have been talking about. That still exists, and it is still bigger, crazier, and more mind-blowing than Nintendo Quest in every way. But we got to wait to see how Nintendo Quest does before we can take on the next adventure with Jay. So this is kind of something that basically was born out of everything going on with Doug and Nicole and Retro City Games, and they're basically the treasure that walked kind of through the door, more or less. And I know Doug and Nicole kind of followed up to see what it was. And when I got the call about it, man, I was like, there's something here beyond just this thing that walked through your door. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, let's team up. Let's do something cool. Let's represent the Vegas community. It's really starting to grow and really coalesce as a retro gaming era, kind of group. But this is something that goes beyond just retro gaming. And I think it's something that when people think about, everyone smiles. When you think about gaming box art, you're just filled with nothing but awesomeness. You know what I mean? It's just positive stuff. So,
well, as someone that is an older gamer and whose first real system, yes, I did get Pong, but first real system was the Atari 2600. The box art was the main reason which you bought.
Sure.
Particular games. It wasn't because of the graphics, and it wasn't because you had seen a gameplay trailer or anything like that. It was box art. That's what captured your imagination, was the great designs, the fancy art, whether it was the pirate ships or racing cars or what have you, or even just the Pac-Man straight up. Yes, everybody knew that Pac-Man existed, but that box art on the original 2600 Pac-Man was truly awe-inspiring and just made you just want to get it that much more. So, coming from my end, and then evolving into the Commodore Amiga phase, which was also a good part of my early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. I know that box art was really, again, something that was paramount as far as something that might attract me from one game to another.
Yeah, I mean, it's that kind of relationship that we want to explore, the way in which you were drawn in by that. And some people will say, oh, I got the game because of the box, and then I played the game, and it was nothing like the cover art. I was let down, I only had the box art to go on. But then, so people felt like maybe cheated by the cover at first. But I think looking back now, we can all see that cover informed our imaginations on what that gameplay was supposed to be. The box art elevated the thing that we were playing. And I think maybe nowadays it's an inverse relationship, where a lot of box art that we see nowadays is lesser than the game that we're playing, because, for lack of a better way to describe it, we're just getting a screen grab from some fancy camera setup within the actual game engine, and it's slapped on the cover, and we're getting some font on top of it, like a nice logo treatment, and that's it. we're not getting that awe-inspiring imaginational drive. I don't think. I really look forward to talking to some contemporary and current artists to see what they think about their approach and, the box art that they loved growing up with, and maybe why they're not doing stuff like that. So what is that evolution? I think box art, a gaming documentary, is going to be really interesting, and I think there's a lot of stuff to mine. And I'm really actually curious to see what the story is that Doug and Nicole dig up on the artwork that they've got, because it's really cool to see, Gerald. And when you come by to Retro City Games next time, if they have some of the stuff there, I'll show you. It looks like a physical Photoshop file. They literally have layers and layers of like tissue papers and like Nintendo transparencies like on top of stuff. So you look at it, it looks normal, but then you can kind of peel it back almost like, literally like a Photoshop layer. I don't know how better to describe it than a layered piece of physical art. It's really something to kind of take a look at. So
and they all have each, like you said, they all each have their own story behind it. So it just makes it that much more intriguing. And also, like you said, today's box art is even more, how shall I say, it's so simplistic compared to that era, compared to, even 10 years ago, it's so simplistic. So in many ways, it's so advantageous for people to go out and just get a little bit more creative with their box art and go back to what once sold a lot of customers like me on different games.
Sure, and we will be doing a Kickstarter for it, of course. We need people's help, and I think the community's pretty excited by it. It's only been 5 hours into day one, and people are like, oh my god, best idea ever for a documentary. And honestly, other than maybe doing something on music, and I know there's a documentary in the works on the music of video games in general, this seems like the next logical kind of area to kind of look at and not exploit, but really dig deep into. So I'm looking forward to see what we can discover. And just talking to like artists on the phone already, it's changing what I thought this film might look like, how it's going to roll out. So it's a journey. It's another adventure I get to go on.
Well, it sounds good. I'm definitely looking forward to it. There you go. And I like that nice soft haze I had there for a second. Maybe it makes me 10 years younger. But it definitely something I'm looking forward to. And if there's anything that we can do,
there's a lot that I would love Game Source to help me with. There's a lot. So I really hope to rope you in, take advantage of all your kindness and your generosity, and lasso you as part of this as much as I can.
Sounds good. Any way I can help, we're there. And because you've helped us, especially with certain projects like what are you playing now that we get, handed over to you?
Well, I do have my hands on Divinity Original Sin, the enhanced edition for PS4, which is cool. And of course, Transformers Devastation are two of the most recent games that your Game Source has been able to throw my way in exchange for a well thought out review or impression piece, I would say, which is really cool. And when you hear the next Gamercast, Glenn and I talk about our experiences looking at Transformers Devastation, and there's more than one mention of your Game Source. So
and we appreciate it.
We kind of want to be the Siskel and Ebert of Game Source, kind of point counterpoint. How can we make that happen?
We do have a point counterpoint page, and little did I know when you guys submitted your reviews back to back that you would be a point counterpoint with you guys on Transformers Devastation.
It was interesting to see where we aligned and yet differed, but in like what he thought was bad, I was able to kind of turn into something a little bit more positive, and vice versa. So nothing ever comes off as harsh because there's a loving look at both sides, I think.
Well, I'll throw that to you first. I know his thoughts, and if you want to read his thoughts verbatim, they're on our Reviews 2015 page at yourgamesource.com. But I want to hear your thoughts, and I'll throw this topic first. We're going to save it for later in the show, but why not? Let's throw it first. Do you think Transformers Devastation, in your opinion, could be that sleeper hit that many could be using as far as concerned for this holiday season? People are always looking, to get the big AAA titles, but what about those titles that they might be able to get for a good deal that came out maybe August, September, October? You know what I'm saying?
I think it's a solid game. I think the action is intense. I think it's very arcade driven. I think there's a lot of cool callbacks to other kind of gaming styles and other genres of gaming's yesteryear. I think if you're not a Transformers G1 fan, like you didn't grow up with that, and maybe that's not such a hard thing to imagine. Maybe most of us are. But I think if you strip that element away from it, and it's something that Glenn and I talked about, would this game sell? Would we even play this game if it wasn't, just doused in Transformers nostalgia from the 80s cartoon? I don't think we would, and I don't know that I would enjoy it as much, because the things I enjoy most are deeply entrenched in the sound of transforming, being able to transform with those characters, being able to use them in different situations, and seeing those familiar foes. So if you're a Transformers fan, you'll definitely enjoy this. I think you're going to get probably only a couple weeks if you go hard at it. I don't know if it's that sleeper hit. I think it's a solid game. I think it belongs on someone's shelf that especially is a Transformers fan. But I don't think it's going to be like the forgotten game of the PS4 library that everybody loved but forgets to mention in the top 10 list. I don't think it'll have that status. It's a good game though.
It's just a really solid as far as
it's hard,
15,
right?
20 hours.
It's a solid game, but there's nothing special about it. And that's so hard to say, but I think everybody knows what I mean. Like, it's good, but why am I impressed? Like, should I just be impressed because it's a good game nowadays? And sometimes I feel like, yeah, that is impressive when a game just comes shipped, ready to play without anything broken, and it is just good and gravy across the board.
There's nothing wrong with 7.5s as far as that's out there, as far as, using, even though I know you don't like to score games and I totally respect that, but we're just throwing that 7.5 because that seems to be the standard as far as, a good game. Some of the Destiny was a title that was, in many considerations, a little bit of a disappointment, but it fell in a Metacritic to about a good game. And look what it has evolved into as far as an experience is concerned.
Definitely. So I think if you're on the fence, but you're a Transformers fan, you got to pick this up because you'll have more than enough fun playing with it than you would maybe something else that you're already on the fence about. The Transformers lore is enough to pull you in, even though maybe they could have taken that one step further to please like the hardcore fans.
Do you think it was something to do with the constrictions maybe that a licensed game may have as far as budgetary concerns are maybe?
I think everyone has budgetary concerns, and I think it's relative. I think when you have a license like Transformers, you're going to want to pay to get the voice actors in for maybe you would use that budget somewhere else on an original game, right? Because again, they're trying to hook that very nostalgic look at it. I think they wanted to see how this would do. They're not advertising the current film franchise, which is what is kind of in everyone's brains, and that's what the kids are familiar with. The kids aren't familiar with this version of Transformers, so it's kind of a risky market play. It has the nostalgia going for it, but it's not current. So I think maybe they were kind of cutting things back, trying to make the most out of all the levels they had at their disposal, and just playing it safe to see what the reception would be like.
I can totally understand it. And, coming off the debacle just a couple weeks before with Tony Hawk, as far as Activision licensed games are concerned, at least to see Transformers was something that a lot of people can play and enjoy. Glenn, like I said, had his thoughts not only on a reviews page at yourgamesource.com, but he also, like you briefly mentioned, that he had on your GamerCast too. Is that correct?
Yeah. We talk about it briefly going back and forth, and we look forward to reviewing the same game in the future to see how that transpires.
Well, I was hoping to get that chance with Divinity Original Sin, the Enhanced Edition, but Jamie wanted to also do that as well. So I know he's going to try and do what he can to stream it. Hopefully get maybe some co-op time with you if he gets a chance, but if your times are aligned. But definitely, I know that you're delving deep into that Divinity Original Sin Enhanced Edition. These are just one of the games, a couple of the games that we've been fortunate enough to get as far as straight from these developers and public relations companies and what have you. And I want to talk to everyone out there real quick. If you are interested possibly in reviewing games for us, whether it's AAA games, indie games, and things of that nature, just give us a shout out, info@yourgamesource.com. And we try to do what we can to provide as many games as possible for our guys to cover. I mean, there's a lot of games that our staff just cannot take care of.
I would like to get everybody maybe to take a look at a game that's on iOS and Android. It's a little hack and slash game called Dash Quest. A good buddy of mine, Jeff Evans at Tiny Titan Studios, based in our hometown of London, Ontario, developed this game, and he gave me the beta just in time for me to fly back to London the last trip I had. So I played it for like 4 hours. And on the surface, you're just sitting there going kind of straight up. It's like kind of like a top-down isometric view. And you're just on a straight linear path and basically chopping down enemies that come. But there are some really kind of deep action RPG elements. You can level up your weapons and buy new gear and take on new things. And the whole object is how far can you dash and get into your quest. And what looks very simplistic and maybe straightforward becomes a really kind of cool resource management and strategy kind of gameplay, because when you die, even if you're on level 3, you go back to level 1. So you got to go through everything all over again and figure out what your strategies are and there's spells that you can cast and how you're going to level up your hero. So check out Dash Quest, Tiny Titan Studios. It's free. There is a paid version to remove ads, but the ads, they didn't bother me. If you want to do the paid version so you're not interrupted as much, I totally get it. But check out Dash Quest. You'll have fun. And it looks like Link to the Past. That's the aesthetic they got. So how can you say no to that?
Exactly. And I know Glenn was looking at, as far as this is concerned, he was sharing that on his social media accounts, and so, as did we. So we really hope for the best as far as this is concerned. And that is Dash Quest. And you can just find that on iOS and Android. Is it something better on the smartphone or better on a tablet per se?
Well, I was on a plane, right? So I was just sitting there tapping away in my seat. I'm sure you could sit there and tap away with your finger on a tablet if you wanted. I think with the tablet, you could probably see more of the options and more of the upgrades for your different stats, in between your dash. So basically, when you die, that's your chance to kind of enhance your character to go dash once more, if you will. And I hear there might even be an event for Dash Quest. Dashcember is coming up. I pushed for Dashtober, but I think it's going to be Dashcember. So this December could be Dashcember. So keep an eye out for that. So either way, either tablet or phone.
And that's Dash Quest. So take a look out for that, everyone. Seems like, hey, it's free. What more can you say? It's free.
It's free. You'll have fun killing 5 to 10 minutes between tasks doing this, I guarantee.
Exactly. And with some of the games still having loading time issues and things of that nature, just pick up your phone, play Dash Quest in between, right?
Yeah. And then you'll probably forget about that game that's loaded and ready to go.
Fair enough. Speaking of games, it's Paris Game Week in Paris right now.
You don't speak French, do you?
Not well.
Enchanté, monsieur. Je te semaine en Paris.
Yes.
How about that?
Exactly. There you go.
Je viens de Canada, je parle français. Come on.
Much better than, hey, you speak
from Canada.
There you go.
Canada, buddy.
But I could probably get you on some Tagalog, but we won't go there. It is, again, Sony's Paris Game Week for all the console makers that are out there. Sony and Microsoft are out there pitching hard as far as all their wares. But Sony decided to bypass Gamescom for their annual press conference and decided to go ahead and do it there at Paris Games Week. And they had almost a 2-hour press conference that they showed yesterday with a lot of great games, some game announcements, and a ton of VR at near the end. So I know you and I both got the chance to see it. Just before I go in with some thoughts, just how did you enjoy it overall, and what were some of the key points that stuck out to you?
I really just like the whole idea of a live presentation. I don't know what it is. It makes it feel immediate. It makes it feel like they're trying to reach out and be a part of it. And this is nothing against Nintendo and Nintendo Directs, which are always, professionally polished performances.
And one's coming up soon, by the way.
Apparently one is coming up before the end of the year, and they may be announcing some unreleased games that nobody knows about yet for the Wii U and the 3DS. I imagine they're going to be digital offerings, and
mobile too. Their mobile game they should be announcing. I was told maybe
they just announced it before we went live, and it got pushed to March. It got pushed to March because they need to explain it better to people and market it, which gives me goosebumps. But did they title it, or did they give it any? They did. Our good friends at Nintendo Life, where I saw the post. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick here.
Which, by the way, has a review of your movie, if I'm not correct. correct.
It does. Nintendo Life was kind enough to review Nintendo Quest. It's called Miitomo, Miitomo, Miitomo. It's the first smartphone game. It's believed to be like a Street Pass for your amiibos, but on your smartphone. But we don't have any confirmation of that either. So Miitomo, March 2016. The fact that Nintendo wants to push off and maybe work on explaining something gives me chills. It's a little kind of anti-Nintendo legacy where it's usually so intuitive that you can just kind of pick up and run and figure it out. Nintendo the last few years, it seems that you need, instructions and assembly, required kind of deal. So
and that's something. Let me just interject real quick. That's something I talked about with Doug from Retro City Games in Henderson, Nevada today. We talked at length about some of the issues that the Wii U had and why it might be pushed to the side a lot sooner than a lot of people had early anticipated because of the NX. And that, I think the intuitiveness was one of the key points that both he and I brought up as far as for the general consumer.
Yeah, the only thing that they could maybe do worse for public opinion and confusion is remove like the NX moniker from their next system and call it the Wii U 2. I think that would probably be the nail in the coffin. I think that would ultimately confuse people even more. So we'll see if Nintendo sticks with the NX moniker or whatever they want to call it. But we'll see what they go for. But yeah, I mean, Sony's conference. I don't even know what to say. I mean, I only watched it hours ago. I thought not that much, but at the same time, it's going to be interesting to see what comes out and how it actually plays out. I'm still excited for No Man's Sky, most of everything. And the idea that on one hand, it's a game where you're fighting in space and there's all this stuff going on, and on the other hand, you can be like an explorer discovering planets and species and just doing that. And so I really like that dichotomy. I don't know what the story is yet, though. What is the narrative, and how do you fit into that?
Does it concern you? Because one of the points I wanted to bring up is that it seemed to be just totally tucked in the middle of it, and they just kind of just almost blended over it. And I understand that they gave it a June 2016 release window, but they kind of glossed over it, which was, I don't know. It's supposed to be such a marquee title for PlayStation, and just where they placed it in the middle of the press conference and so quick seemed kind of concerning. And obviously the fact that it's still not ready for another 9 months when it was debuted over 2 years ago has to be of some concerns to anyone that's following the game as closely as you and I.
So let me ask you this. Would you have been more concerned if it wasn't shown at all? Because I think they realized that we have to show this. Maybe we don't have anything new to say.
Well, I guess there's PlayStation Experience. I think they could have waited until then.
I think they've got it. If they're going to do their own conference in Paris Games Week, that game has to be there. They spent a lot of money putting this presentation on. They're going to tout every game that's out there. I think the problem with No Man's Sky is that it's more popular than Sony maybe had bargained for, and now they don't know what to do with all this momentum because it's not ready for another 9 months. What do you do?
Exactly.
So they had to include it. They put it in the middle so that everybody would know what was there. And now it's okay, let's move on to the other kind of newer announcements. We know it's coming, and we haven't forgotten, guys, but here's some other things that you should be excited about too. But just so you don't forget, here's No Man's Sky.
Well, fair enough then. But what were some of the other key points that stuck out to you as far as the show is concerned?
Maybe an overemphasis on VR and the problem with actually trying to demonstrate what VR looks like on a presentation, because it looks just like a normal game because you're using 2D screens, and you even have the disclaimer that says, cameras altered for flat screen display. So yeah, it's unfortunately the kind of thing that you have to be there to experience. And they tried to get at that with the one game, which is based on the film The Walk, which is based on a documentary that won a Best Academy Award in 2011, I believe, which is a great film. You got to check that out. So you could see how people were reacting, how realistic it felt for them to walk across the tightrope between the two towers, of course, with the headset, the VR underneath. It looked like they were bundling up for Hoth with all the gear that they had on them. But it looks fun. I think everybody's going to want to try it once, like the Wiimote when the Wii first came out. But is it going to catch fire? Is this like 1994 again with full motion video with the Virtual Boy? Has virtual reality come full circle? How necessary is it going to be, if even if it is perfected? Is it going to take that plunge to gamers that we need?
Well, I think also as well, like you said, it has to be advertised and promoted, unfortunately, onto 2D screens via either computer or televisions. And that is so very hard for the regular consumer to understand, or for Sony to convey it to consumers as far as the actual experience is concerned. That, I mean, how many people are actually going into the, I'm assuming Best Buys or Walmarts or what have you, to try all these, to even a sampling of the PlayStation VR once it comes out, just so they can get an idea. Because when PlayStation, obviously as it gets closer to that window, they're going to be doing the majority of their advertising via 2D formats.
It's going to be one of those things, right, where not a lot of people are going to have it at first, and you're going to go over to that guy's house to try it out, and then you're going to make the decision, do I want to spend the $800 on the VR rig plus console or whatever? And then I just don't know. It's going to be such a slow roll. Like when Blu-ray players came out, they were $900. I bought a PS3 because it was $600 at the time, So I don't know. It's going to be such a hard sell that only the gutsiest of the gutsiest, or only the dedicated, or only those that have been following and have experience might take the plunge for something. I do think it's cool to see Gran Turismo and the idea that could have a virtual reality component. I think that'll be fun. That for some reason, I think of like Daytona Racing in the arcade, the way that the chair shook and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see how that goes. But I don't know what that motion experience is like. So I'm curious to see where it goes. I know with the Oculus Rift, playing around with that sensation was almost too intense, and you had to limit your gameplay. So are people going to plunk down a lot of money for something that they don't have a lot of exposure to, that they can only play for limited amounts of time? I don't know.
And one of the things they always say, as far as they're concerned, is that it's going to limit the amount of nausea, headaches, or anything of motion sickness or anything of that. They always claim in interviews that there is no problem with that, but ultimately they are not certain as well, because they can't dictate how many, X amount of people that are going to play it are going to have these issues and have these type of problems. So
or people that go out to a bar and come home and they're not tired, and then they've had a few cocktails, and now they're going to throw this on, and are they going to throw up because all of a sudden it's motion sensitive? Like, there's just scenarios that they're not going to be advertising and that are going to get on the news. Another person, throws up after playing, Sony VR. So
exactly. Anything else that stuck out for you?
Detroit stuck out for me a little bit. I didn't see that coming near the end. And as interesting as the narrative looks, I feel like I've seen that story a million times through sci-fi movies or fiction in general. As a guy who travels through Detroit a lot, because that's where I land when I go en route to Canada, they've definitely nailed the visuals and stuff. All those landmarks look like perfect, as you would imagine anybody that wants to invest money to 3D recreation of that would. I would like, to be honest, even if it sounds as cliche as what they're pitching as the narrative, I'd rather be a human than have to be Kara, the android, who thinks she's alive. Because that's a disconnect for me as a person, where I'm playing as an android who thinks she's alive, but I don't understand that. It's easier for me to be a human, to be sympathetic towards that, and have to make those moral decisions whether I guard her life as if she is real or not.
And of course it has to take on some reality tones as far as with dealing with racism, things of that nature, being that the androids are treated as second-class citizens and things of that nature, which we have seen on numerous occasions with Android films. So that part of it is nothing new for me. The look of it was really nice. Quantic Dreams has always done a great job as far as the look and the visuals, and their ideas have been very good. Just with Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls, it's touch and go as far as them being able to execute a full powerful game and a powerful story that they wanted to convey. It always seems to go awry at some point in time. That are best ideas.
Speaking of stuff that could go awry, the demonstration we saw for Dreams. I don't know. Again, this is something that looks interesting, but with a narrative that's kind of out there, and it really felt like a stagey performance to try to get me interested in that. I liked the visuals. I thought it was neat.
Maybe they should have kept that for its own video, as far as maybe promoted on a YouTube format or something of that nature. I don't know if that was meant for an audience. It kind of slowed everything down, don't you think?
Yeah, because they were trying to explain the mechanics so in depth and how it worked. It's clear that even they know, the devs, that there's a barrier to entry on that game, that you can't just pick up a controller. You're either going to play and make, you're either going to make stuff or you're going to play it, and then you've got to kind of figure out how these pieces go together. It's just too complex, especially in comparison to something like Mario Maker, which is so intuitive that it hurts to put it down because it just invites you to constantly create, you know?
Exactly. Or even the preceding stuff, as far as is concerned, Little Big Planet was very easy to go ahead and build worlds, as far as it's concerned, and a lot more intuitive, as you were saying, as far as what you can do and what you can create. And I'm sure Dreams and the ultimate, what you say at the end, as far as the sizzle reel from that trailer at the end, of shows all the different things you can do with it. The problem is, like you said, are people going to go to the great lengths necessary in order to do it?
Yeah, it seems like really complicated, and that the better experience is when you've got people to play it with. And again, the idea that it's kind of a motion control thing, I don't know. I don't think it's for me.
Those Move controllers, they can't give those away at this point.
Definitely not, man. It's almost like the Destiny bundles nowadays. There's so many of those, it seems, and now that they've got another one with the Taken King, it's like, what about that Arctic White one that was clean from last year? Those are everywhere, it seems. So
exactly,
a lot of piled up hardware for Sony, but that's what happens when every kind of AAA game comes out and you give it a brand new console edition. Did you know that Canada has an NHL edition of the PlayStation bundle?
I did, and then also as well, I know with it just depends on the region. Whereas Xbox does the FIFA 16, which is still here, but is heavily promoted, obviously, in Europe and whatnot.
Sure.
But I did hear about the NHL 16 for Canada.
The NHL, but it's just a standard black PS4 console, which by default now is becoming more rare than some of the other colored ones. But they should have done a silver one for the Stanley Cup. I'm just saying. EA, come on, you could have made that happen. So,
or sometimes just go out of your way to do something special for having it on there.
It seems silly just to include that on the console box, an image of the game. So,
exactly, or maybe Canada itself right on there. Maybe Canada's colors.
There you go. A red and white PS4. I can deal with that. What did you think of Wild? That's the Shaman game, right?
Yeah, that's the Shaman game. The one everybody's going nuts over because you can ride a bear.
Wait a second. Everyone's going nuts over this game. Please tell me why people are going nuts over this game.
Because of the things you can do that were so different. They're supposedly so different. It's just, we've already seen, the characters within games on numerous occasions ride animals, as far as it's concerned. But the fact that you could ride a bear, I know IGN and some other outlets were going crazy as far as it's concerned. Or you can summon an eagle, or the snake, deal with the snake and whatnot. It looks okay. It looks pretty good. But
Gerald, looks aren't enough anymore. Dreams looks okay. Detroit looks okay. Wild. Every game we saw looks game.
And that leads to my point here, is that there needs to be some substance as far as it's concerned, and depth. And is there more that you can do except for just summoning certain individuals? I know with Horizon, as far as it's concerned, which we saw again displayed, at least it looks like on the surface that game is a little bit more than as far as the aesthetics is concerned. And that's why I believe that game, out of any other that was shown, might have more promise than any at this point in time, outside of Uncharted 4, of course.
I gotta say, I didn't really feel too much for Horizon when they kind of showed it at E3, and I guess some people are saying they showed very similar footage this go around. But for whatever reason, and maybe it's because of the other stuff that was being shown, it seemed to resonate more with me because of the way that you can set up traps and just the intensity of the encounters. Again, though, other than what we saw, is that a microcosm for the bigger game? Where does it go? It feels kind of like No Man's Sky, but with robotic kind of wildlife. And the fact that everything is inorganic is such a kind of turnoff for me. I don't know what it is, but it feels like all those Alien movies where the aliens all look and sound alike, or all the zombie movies where there's just no originality to the design or the approach. It just feels simulacrum. It's all the same.
But I do want to say that I do credit Sony and Guerrilla Games for trying something out of the box. You know, they could have told Sony, yeah, we're going to just do another Killzone game, and that's it. But at least they're trying something different. Although, as many have pointed out, that it seems that that type of environment with Wild, with Horizon, and with some others is now being done as far as it's concerned, because people are going so far away from the shooters as far as it's concerned, the modern shooters and the modern environment, or even the Mad Max, Fallout 4 type deal as far as it's concerned, and get away from the apocalypse type deal as well. So they're trying to do something even different. What it seems like these game makers, they fall in love, they see something and then they fall in love with it, and then they'll discard it at a moment's notice. And it just seems that that's the case right now, that they're all falling. A lot of them are falling in love with this type of format, with Far Cry Primal and things of that nature.
Yeah, it's the frontier. It's the untamed wilderness that everybody seems to want to embrace.
And if Red Dead Revolver 2, comes out, Red Dead Redemption, 2 comes out, and that does what you and I would expect it to do, then everybody will start making westerns, and it just goes. It's a pendulum.
Speaking of westerns, and I hate to jump off topic because there's more Paris Games Week at PlayStation talk about. Did you see Hard West? What that looks like and why I'm probably excited about it?
I did get a chance to it, and it does show a lot of promise. But you and I both know at this point, it's like you got to temper that enthusiasm, like I did with No Man's Sky. It's just because at No Man's Sky, I was just so emphatically in love with it, and then I just realized, you know what? I want to see that those vertical slices. That sometimes they get you and they hold and grab you, and that's the image you have. And then when you sit down and play the game, it's not. Battlefront, I know for many is the same way. So
for those of you that don't know, Hard West is a turn-based strategy. I guess you could say kind of RPG. It's essentially XCOM in the Wild West with spooky supernatural elements, but to a high degree of difficulty, which a lot of people that play XCOM will probably enjoy, where every shot counts. You can actually get shot or shoot somebody with your Peacemaker and take him out with one bullet if luck is on your side. So it seems like they've really tweaked some algorithms that sound super interesting. I'm looking forward to Hard West. I don't think there's a console port, but because XCOM 2 is strictly PC, that might be one that I pick up should I ever get through Divinity in time.
Exactly. I'm going to ask for Alkaline's gun for you as well. Yeah. Because I know that comes out the middle of November, so I'll be asking our friends at Maximum Games, hopefully, for that one as well.
We should talk to those guys about box art. See what they say.
Yes, indeed. And then I want to talk about, like I just briefly mentioned it, obviously the game that's on many lips, Battlefront. I love that trailer. That was an awesome trailer. Voice acting aside, because that always, I have issues with that part of it.
Yeah.
And that's what I've talked about Jay on end. I said, if you can afford to recreate the experience, to recreate the sounds, why not just take and you have rights to get these things from the movies? Why can't you spend that little extra more and just grab those samples of audio?
What did I say about Transformers Devastation? They chose to invest in the voice actors instead of maybe some other game elements. We all know for Battlefront, it's about the game elements. People will forgive the crappy voice acting if the game is solid. Sure. Transformers Devastation is banking on those voices, sounds, and looks. That's the difference between the two things.
Just it seems like you have this awesome sundae and you forgot the cherry on top, and it just. But
you still got ice cream, Gerald. You still got ice cream.
That's true.
Did you get it? If it's just a bowl of cherries.
And I know you mentioned before. That's true. And I know you mentioned before, as far as your disappointment, as far as what you saw at GameStop Expo when we were there. I know you were out, actually still in Portland, I believe, at the time the beta was running. So I know you didn't. I don't know if you got a chance to even try it.
Didn't get a chance to try it. I'm hanging up my Stormtrooper outfit. I'm good.
Fair enough.
I've got too much going on between the documentaries, Divinity, and XCOM.
Well, Jay is your partner in crime. Jay actually is still on that bandwagon. Of course, being the mega fan that he is,
Sure.
And he is still saying he's going to review it for us. So I'm very hopeful for that. And I know he's got a lot of he has to deal with as far as it's concerned. But I know Battlefront is one of those things. And we'll talk about it in the later podcast. Actually, I believe on our next podcast, we'll talk more about the Force Awakens and all that.
Sure,
so
yeah.
I won't go into too much there. But and then one last thing I want to talk about with Sony and Paris Games Week was the Uncharted 4 trailer for their multiplayer, and I'm kind of, I don't know, as someone who was kind of saddened to see Amy Hennig and that whole side go, and then rework the story and change it to the folks from The Last of Us. Not that Last of Us isn't an outstanding game on its own right, but they obviously wanted to go in a different direction than where Amy Hennig was heading, and it obviously has transferred itself into every format of the game, including the multiplayer, which is now including a whole bunch of mysticism and supernatural elements, which were only hinted upon or shown in small bits and pieces within the games of the previous nature. Does this concern you as far as multiplayer is concerned? I don't know if you were going to try it or whatnot, but it's something for me that is a hardcore Uncharted fan. Kind of concerned that they're going in that just a complete right turn as far as the direction is concerned.
I've only played a handful of Uncharted multiplayer. I think Uncharted 2, Jay and I played a bit, and it was okay, but it wasn't, wasn't playing Halo multiplayer the way that I wanted it to be. It just never clicked for us as a multiplayer game. As far as the supernatural storyline, hey, every action adventure franchise has a Temple of Doom entry. You know what I mean? There's or a Crystal Skull entry. Would it pick your poison? There's always one that wants to push it too far, and another one that'll dial it back to the realism, like a Raider. So I like Uncharted for the single player stuff. I'm pulled into the whole treasure hunting thing.
Fair enough.
And I don't mind the supernatural. We'll see how it plays out in the whole story. I mean, we'll see to what degree.
Actually, as well. I'm still, as an Uncharted super fan, I'm looking forward to the game as a whole as well. And I think it was a good performance by Sony overall. I commend them for taking the challenge so late in the bordering on the real holiday rush season for reminding fans what to look forward to if you want to own a PlayStation, and which leads me into my next topic, because they're leaning so much on fans wanting to buy what's coming up in the future. They don't have a really whole lot to go on as far as from a first party standpoint now. But when it concerns them and the Wii U, which reported their numbers recently as far as 1.2 million units sold in the past 6 months, but strong sales for both Splatoon and Super Mario Maker, of course. Do you see that as a sign of weakness heading into these what typically is the most busiest shopping season as far as it's concerned for both PlayStation and Wii U?
Not really concerned, to be honest. PlayStation has a price cut, I believe. That's the best kind of first party thumbs up that you can get. That's better than any kind of game, really. I mean, what else can you ask for? I think it's always a good time to buy a console, and there's going to always be people that want a console for Christmas, or they're looking to get one on Black Friday. So it's always a good time. There's enough stuff in the library already that they can do that.
Exactly.
And I think for the Wii U, it's the same thing. I think Mario Maker and Splatoon are strong entries this year. I think there's a lot of kids that hope they get Mario Maker for Christmas.
And also, with the Mario Kart 8 bundle, and obviously, Super Smash Brothers that's still, readily available and might be at discounted prices this year. It makes for definitely a great deal indeed. I know that on our Black Friday page, which we are announcing is now live at blackfriday.html on yourgamesource.com/blackfriday.html. We already have posted start of it, which includes the Toys R Us Big Book, which includes a deal with 3 games if you buy a Wii U from November 1st to the 21st for $2.99, which includes Mario Kart 8, Legend of Zelda, and another game, which you want to check out, which will be on our Black Friday page. And then that awesome Xbox One deal that everybody seems to be going already. Dell is already putting its money down, so to speak, as far as giving people what they want as far as a great holiday deal. Did you get a chance to hear about that one, Rob?
No, I haven't, and I apologize. It looks like my camera, although lit up and says it's functioning, has ceased to function. So you're stuck with an audio version only of me until I get this kind of sorted. I haven't heard any of those deals. Those are exciting. Won't be buying an X1 or an Xbox One, but try.
Well, if you're interested in an Xbox One out there, you want to check out our page, yourgamesource.com/blackfriday.html. It is our most popular page by far each and every year because we personally, I personally loaded up with all the deals as far as it's concerned that will be, displayed during the Black Friday season. So as they appear on all the Black Friday pages, the specific deals for gamers that they would be interested in, I actually will put on that page. So you gamers will know exactly what deals that are going to be out there for Thanksgiving and for Black Friday. And if you want to check it out right now, there's one heck of a deal that Dell is offering on an Xbox One for Thanksgiving. I'll let everybody know that. It's going to be starting on Thanksgiving while supplies last. But if you want to check out what that is,
let me ask you the big question. You said, Wii U and PS4. And hey, my camera's working. Wii U and PS4, no big reason to buy a system. Is there a big reason to buy an Xbox One right now? Or is the price dropping up? Let's say you have I have a PS4. Why would I buy an Xbox One?
Well, if I didn't have any systems right now, and I looked at, just going off of value, if I had that, know that Dell deal is going on and the price is going to be roughly around $300 or similar to what the Wii U is, with the lineup of games that they're offering right now from a first party standpoint, with Halo, also as well with their alignment with Lara Croft and getting Tomb Raider for a year exclusivity, and what they're offering with Forza and other things. It's a really, really solid system as it's shaping out to be. I mean, it's much different from their past. Obviously, it's much different from the way they introduced it. They're becoming more gamer-centric every single day. I know that's going to come off like an Xbox fanboy, and I actually spend more time myself on the PS4, but in all honesty. But, with the Xbox One, for people that are out there that had the previous Xbox system as well, this could be the year that you might want to just actually get that money, put that money down and get an Xbox One, or at least heavily consider it, because it is becoming more competitive with the PS4s from a value standpoint.
And they're bringing out 360 compatibility now, right?
Yes.
That's kind of like their big thing, their future touting.
They're rolling that out in mid-November, I think the 13th, if I'm not mistaken. They're going to make a lot of these games, 360 games, compatible, so that if you still have them, you'll be able to play them on your Xbox One, which, for a lot of people, that could be, a great value indeed. Because sure. PS4 can't match that right now. I mean, it has PlayStation, as far as the services that they provide, but they usually come at a great cost to play games from the past.
But you heard about what they want to do for like the big system update, possibly next year, right?
Yes, yeah, I've heard rumors of that, and I'm hoping that they'll do that.
PS2 classics.
Yes.
I mean, how great would that be?
That would be great, and I would love to see is also as well them taking their current cloud system, and instead of charging so much for renting or buying, make it available to PlayStation Plus consumers at a much reduced rate, if not free. That would be just a great way of saying thank you for making them the current leader as far as in console sales. And for Xbox One, I think the time is now for them to capitalize, because they're the only company right now of the three that actually have a a decent allotment as far as first party games or games that are lined exclusively with them that they can stand behind. Whereas with Wii U and PlayStation 4, they have Super Mario Maker and with Uncharted collection as far as their main entries. If they cannot do it at this point, as far as gain any type of stronger foothold within retail sales industry, then definitely you might want to just go ahead and just count it down for this console generation as far as PlayStation 4 is concerned.
Are you gonna get a Wii U? Have you made up your mind on that? I've been grilling you about this since Rooftop Expo.
I'm waiting on Mark, good friends at Retro City Games in Henderson, Nevada.
Okay.
It's all up to them as far as it's concerned, but I cannot say 100% because I have certain other individual ears that
Right.
yeah.
Well,
So we want to.
I gotcha. Gotcha. We'll see if everybody's on the naughty or nice list.
Yes, ich schnee on that schnee because I can't do that schnee. I can't say that schnee right now.
Sure.
Schnee.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Very cool.
But we will press on, and I know we talked about Battlefront, but do you see, speaking of retail sales, do you see Battlefront or Fallout 4 not just chasing the Call of Duty dream, but surpassing the Call of Duty dream? Because Call of Duty every single year, maybe they're going a little bit on the downside. Sales might be sliding a little bit. Do you see either one of them outperforming Call of Duty this holiday season?
I think Battlefront's got a really good shot. It's, it is a multiplayer game, and it has the marketing power of everything Star Wars behind it. It's been, a decade since the last entry in the series. Even though I'm not a fan, it's going to be hard to downplay the excitement for that exists. I mean, everybody was talking about the beta. Yes. Everyone was talking about that.
9.5 million people played it, so it's just, my gosh, it was out there. That was a brilliant marketing move on their part.
Let's face it, Battlefront is new. Call of Duty is common. It's common. People know what they're going to get. There's some interesting things about Call of Duty this year, apparently, but it isn't the new game that ties in with the most anticipated film in the last 10 years.
Yes, I certainly agree. And have you got your tickets already? That's all I ask.
I have to wait until Monday. We can talk about Force Awakens on the next episode. But
absolutely.
It's a long story.
And then also, we're going to play over-under as far as sales are concerned. Over-under, which, for all the various games this holiday season, that you can, because we're here in Vegas, and they do over-unders all the time. So we got to, when in Vegas, you got to do something as far as.
I like over-under. I do that a lot with my friends. They don't like it. When's Jay going to get up? Over-under, the push is 9:32 a.m.
There you go.
Over-under. I'm going to take over. I'm going to take over on that one.
There you go. Fair enough. And then we talked about the Wii U earlier, and we know one of the projects that's in development is a Legend of Zelda. As far as a remake is concerned, a certain remake that I know a lot of people, such maybe even yourself, had in mind as well. But also the Legend of Zelda as far as the open world, a new game in the series. And I wanted to talk about as far as, do you think at this point that maybe they should hold off until the NX is released? Because there's rumors that they're talking about the NX being released as early as the holiday season next year. And if that is the case, would it be in their best interest to maybe put it on just that platform as a launch title? What are your thoughts as far as is concerned with The Legend of Zelda, the new title in development, hopefully coming up very soon?
I think Nintendo needs to release it as soon as they can. We've seen in the past Nintendo has no problems re-releasing Zelda games. So let them re-release it as a launch title and have something special to do with it on the NX, if that's the case. There's nothing wrong with that. That's going to be the reason that people maybe jump to the new Nintendo console, which is rumored to be, carrying current tech spec chips that can compete with the PS4 in terms of hardware specs. If that's what people want to jump to the NX, great. People that have a Wii U right now, they want to play Zelda now. Put it on both. They didn't have a problem with Twilight Princess going both on GameCube and the Wii.
Good point indeed. Yeah, I can totally agree with that concept as far as it's concerned. So let's say it does come out the holiday season, the NX is concerned, and then they go ahead and release the have a version, maybe a special version for the NX with improved graphics or what have you, improve more content, what have you for the NX, but still have a Wii U content that's still made available. I would agree on that assessment as well, because like you said, they need all the help they can get after what.
And even if Zelda's ready to go for September next year, and they've already announced the NX, launch Zelda in September. You want to play the new Zelda game? You can play it in September on the Wii U. If you want to wait for the NX, well, you're going to have to wait till that comes out in mid-November.
And that seems like a very fair point indeed, and it seems like something Nintendo might actually be thinking up with at this time. But we'll have to wait and see on that. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is, there's another game this week, and all this hubbub with everything going out, Halo going out, obviously the new Divinity and Darksiders 2, as far as that definitive edition also coming out as well. But one of the other titles that came out this week was WWE 2K16. And I know it's near and dear to one of our colleagues, Jamie's heart, as far as it's concerned. But I wanted to get your thoughts. Is something that's been previous iterations have not fared so well as far as from a critical standpoint, but it still seems to be a solid seller indeed. Do you think with the game that just came out, the game is getting, pretty good reviews at this point in time. It seems to be a little bit more fleshed out from previous years. Do you think that might need to be in need of a break, as far as for is that concerned, or is it something that WWE can constantly put out year over year and still see the fruits of benefits of that?
Look, it's sports entertainment, right? Nobody begrudges a Madden title every year. If you're into Madden, you're gonna pick up the new Madden. That's your staple. If it's NHL, it's NHL. If it's FIFA, it's FIFA. I think that WWE probably has a strong enough following that they think that they can justify it. The challenge with all those games is, how do we make it exciting and fresh every year? They're touting that they have over 150 wrestlers in this one.
Yes.
Yet the women's
that's about 2/3 more than what they had last year.
But the big complaint is that the women's division isn't largely present. So next year, guess what? They'll probably try to focus on probably the women wrestlers in that. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, no more than the Call of Duty stuff. It's a sports title in my mind. It's not a franchise that I've played in a long time. I think I got 2K13 was the only 2K entry I've got, and then going back, it'd be NWO versus WCW, WrestleMania 2000, No Mercy, the N64 titles. I don't see anything wrong with it. I think it's justifiable.
Okay, fair enough. I just have an issue usually with the way WWE promotes it, because I think the sales initially could be stronger. I know that's a title that's going to sell month over month as far as longevity is concerned, but I think off the bat it suffers from a lack of publicity, because I don't think WWE goes out of its way to promote it as much as they should. Every year, when I maybe glance at what shows are on as far as from either Raw, SmackDown, or pay-per-views, or the WWE Network is concerned, I think that I don't see enough of touting of the game as far as in its physical state. And I get more from my dealings on sites, interacting with video game sites and whatnot. But to me, the WWE, like you said, it is sports entertainment, and it does, to me, cater to more of a casual interest than, let's say, the hardcore gamer. From a personal standpoint, I think it connects with that audience, and thus I think it should be more heavily promoted by the WWE, and it's in their best financial interest to do so. So every year I'm leaving, I'm thinking myself, as I see that, any of their programming, is why don't they go out of their way more for that game? But even despite that, it still seems to sell, fairly well year over year. And I know this year's is substantially better than last year's, and as long as it continues that trend year over year, I guess it can be still repeated, not without a problem, just like you said, with the Maddens and the Call of Duties of the world. Because if we still have those year after year, no matter how much people, either moan and groan about it or tout it, the same can be said for the WWE franchises. Assassin's Creed, though, That I might have issue with on our next podcast. So
Well, we'll have to wait till that episode to talk about Assassin's Creed, because I've heard some interesting things about the most recent version of that. Talk about bundling Sony hardware with stuff. It's interesting to see what they're bundling with the new Assassin's Creed to clear the warehouses.
yes, exactly, indeed. So any last thoughts? It's we're shutting down here for Game Source Podcast 132, but I want to make sure that not only am I grateful that you're on the show with us, Rob, as always, but I want to make sure that everything is laid out on the floor as far as what you have going on, but also with all of the great things that have gone on with Nintendo Quest.
Just everything's out there. It's happening. NintendoQuest.com. If you haven't checked out the movie, again, the Power Tour episodes are linked on our main site as well. Today was the big announcement for Box Art, a gaming documentary. You can check us out at facebook.com/boxartdoc. We're on Twitter as well, boxartdoc. We do have our website out, boxartdoc.com. It isn't live yet. We have the domain. You should see it live. It'll basically just point to our Facebook page and have our synopsis and stuff. But lots of great things in the work. I love being here. I love being able to announce the Box Art Doc on your Game Source podcast, streaming live on Twitch and Google Hangouts. Always fun. I can't wait for the next episode, which is tomorrow, I believe.
That's correct. While there were people still available as far as staff members, that were so graciously hoping to get on. I know Josh is itching to get on tomorrow with us. I had to just jump on that and get going with that. But we are most appreciative that you taking the time out in your busy schedule. And indeed,
Sure.
Not only today's podcast, but tomorrow's or the next podcast as well, I should say, if customers are listening or consumers are listening out there at a different time. We want to thank everyone for watching, for listening. This is Gerald, better known as Yes Elvis Lives. Once again, we are Game Source on Facebook, at Game Source on Twitter. And if you also want to hear another great podcast, this man right here also hosts it on GamerCast. And you can catch that and find that off of NintendoQuest.com, I'm assuming, correct?
There's links there, and it's on iTunes, GamerCast with J. Rob and Glenn, nesclub.podomatic.com. It's NintendoQuest.com. We made it so simple.
And if you forget that, you can head over to yourgamesource.com, and there's a special link. We have a special unofficial page for the unofficial documentary for Nintendo Quest, and I might have it on there too. So just to let you know, and on that, plus a lot of great thoughts from Rob as well. And we're just so appreciative to have him a part of the team and part of us here, the experience here at Game Source. Once again, at Game Source on Twitter, Game Source on Facebook, Game Source on Twitch and YouTube. We appreciate you watching, listening, and hope you have yourselves a great day.